But I would get anxiety thinking about this. Like, my God, how much work is involved in these things?
Making games is really, really hard. And this is kind of an interesting thing, seeing the kind of the culture at Facebook where you've got the big tech titans with the Facebook, Google, Apple, Microsoft, all that. And you get a lot of people that roll right into that out of college. And some of the people that have been in some of the other industries, they do look at it and it's like, oh, they have it so good at these big tech companies where they really are. Everybody is taken care of incredibly well. They get all the different perks. And and then you look at the game industry where it doesn't pay as well. There's less job security and they work you a lot harder. But they have, and it's kind of there is the problem of the fact that when you have an industry, and this has been the way for artists forever, artists and musicians, where if you've got something that people are passionate about and want to be involved in, supply and demand works its way, and you wind up in a situation where, yeah, they don't have to be paid as much. But the other side of that is it allows products that otherwise couldn't exist to exist by people working at that level in a way that maybe couldn't be sustained in other industries. There are probably many of the greatest things that were ever made in gaming were only possible by people throwing themselves at that level at it. And there's some serious debate about it. Some people despise that about the industry, that, nobody should work that hard. And there are people that, that think there literally should be laws that should prevent people from working that hard. And I always have to argue against that, where there is there's a power to obsession and like being able to absolutely obsess over something and throw your life's work, instead of work-life balance, it's your life's work. And everybody will point back. It's like, well, yeah, that worked great for you. You were a founder of a company. You were in a position where you got to make your own decisions. But is that okay to say for the 19-year-old out of a game dev program that's being overworked for it? And I have to always be aware that my view into the industry is very colored by, obviously, my experiences. I never actually worked inside of one of the big EA or Activision studios. And it's possible that they have some valid criticisms, but I still come down on I think it's great when people throw themselves at it beyond the point of what even other people think is reasonable. They have free will. They've chosen to do that. And if that's what they think is going to help them get close to their goals, I'm not going to try to make that impossible for them.
I think what people are concerned about, though, is a company forcing an employee to work massive hours. And that, well, hey, I want to work in video games. I'm very passionate about working in video games, but I want a life. I want to be able to work 8 hours a day, which seems to be a reasonable amount, and then go on about with my life. But you can't really do that if you're in a game development, can you? So again,
my experience isn't the experience of everyone else, but we had like Michael Abrash, who was my right hand in the Quake days. He came from Microsoft. And he had a family. He had a wife and daughter, and he would work a reasonably normal schedule most of the time. But he was awesome. So, of course, we were happy to have him. It's not like anybody was browbeating Michael. It's like, oh, why aren't you staying past midnight with us here? Everybody was aware of his contribution and value. Now, that may not be the case in some of the companies today, but I suspect that if all of a person's peers know that they're doing spectacular work and they say, I'm out of here at 5, if they're actually doing valuable work, I don't find it that credible that the companies are going to get rid of people doing great work just because they're not spending 60 hours a week there.
But do they give you a requirement? Like you're required to work 12 hours a day? Is that reasonable? Does that happen?
So no, I've never. Again, I'm not involved in the HR departments of all of these companies, but the ones that I have been familiar with or that I've known people doing that, largely they come back and say, these people are choosing to do this. And the rejoinder is it's like, oh, it's a toxic culture that makes people want to choose to do that. But I definitely don't buy into that sort of social engineering level of things. It's like if they're doing it, they agree that they'll wave the flag and say, I am doing this because I care so much about this. I don't think that's a problem.
Now, when you look at the